Welcome to Throwing Shade and Clay.
We're your hosts, Karen and Louise, slinging history, politics, and paint in equal measure.
Each episode, we take one fascinating moment from history
and see how it still shapes the world we're living in today.
While we're at it, we'll be painting pottery inspired by the theme, because nothing says political discourse like a perfectly glazed mug.
So grab your brushes, your hot takes, and your sense of humor, and let's throw some shade and some clay. This episode may include adult language and disturbing themes like war, political liaisons, and the cluster we call the American government. Please exercise caution when listening with children under 13. Hey friends, welcome back to Throwing Shade and Clay. This is Louise, and you are...
Karen!
Hey, Karen! Sorry we're a little bit late on this podcast. Full disclosure, I was sick last podcast, and I recorded sick, and then I lost my mind and couldn't think the rest of the week, and then I had a birthday, so I didn't want to think. So
I don't blame you whatsoever.
We wrote this podcast this morning, and we're recording this podcast this morning, so it'll be great.
It's going to be amazing. Yes, we're talking about something tangential to one of my favorite things. As you know, I love true crime, and I know you do too. And we're going to talk about the Mafia and their infiltration into waste management of all things. It's going to be interesting. Come with us on this journey, friends.
It will. And it's tangential to me too, as I am Italian and my mom did grow up in New York. And I swear that the family lore that my grandfather was not buried in a Catholic cemetery is because he was part of the Mafia.
Ooh.
But my mom says that it was because he was not part of the Mafia, so they wouldn't bury him.
Sure. I mean, keep the lie simple, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I will say that we're not Mafia rich, so at least that's true. Like, we don't have fake money just laying around.
If any of the movies can really be believed, the only super duper rich people are the ones at the top anyway. So, I mean,
we could be wrong on them.
That still doesn't confirm or deny whether or not he was in the Mafia.
I've also worked for restaurants in the past, and restaurants are an easy way for the Mafia to infiltrate, and there's a lot of cash floating around.
Easy.
I've been worked for Mafia bosses before that would never admit it.
That's so, like, it's bad but cool at the same time.
Yeah.
When you're away from it, I feel like if you're in it and you start, like, seeing some things and you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, it's wild. But it's funny, too, because the Mafia and the Mormon racketeering, really similar vibes.
Oh, yeah. Scientology.
Oh, yeah. That's
the same. Yeah,
the same.
Absolutely.
So the Mafia definitely doesn't have a monopoly on crime. They just have a monopoly on cash.
They have a monopoly on infiltrating and making things. Well,
they wrote the playbook.
Yeah.
So today we're talking about the Mafia's involvement in trash collection in the United States. And we're going to talk a lot about Italy first, so that we can kind of get the idea of what the Italian Mafia is and what they do and why.
And I might throw some Sopranos words in there just for fun, because I love to say gabagool.
I've actually never watched The Sopranos, and I probably should have.
Honestly, okay, unpopular opinion. I did not watch it while it was on. I have watched the whole thing, and there are definitely some good, like, concepts and characters and stuff, but I don't know that it's something that I would watch again. I definitely don't get as obsessed about it as a lot of people do. And especially for the ending, because that was very controversial, and I'm not going to spoil it just in case you ever do watch it, even though it's been like
you can spoil it for me. I'll never remember what you tell me.
Well, there really is no ending.
Yeah.
Like, they set it up that Tony and or his family are going to get whacked. It's going to be fun to throw those words in. Like, his whole family gets together for dinner at a restaurant, and then his daughter walks in, I think, and then it just goes black. So you don't actually have an ending. That's where I turn into a basic bitch when it comes to movies and shows. I need, yeah. And so I was like, oh, it's another one where they're like, oh, we'll just leave it open in case we decide that we want to, reboot or do a movie or whatever.
Should have just had an ending. Right. I bet they filmed 4 different endings, and I bet there is an ending out there for you to view if you knew the right people.
Yeah, but see, since I didn't love the show like a lot of people did, I really
you don't actually care.
So
that's a good point. Our lesson also involves trash. Karen, what are you painting?
I am painting a gravy boat in honor of Thanksgiving, which at the time of this recording is in 4 days.
4 days, yeah. So the piece that Karen is actually painting is called the Saucier. It is a giant gravy boat. I'm going to show it to you in hand so you can see how absolutely ginormous it is. I think it holds like 28 ounces or something like that, which seems like a lot of gravy, but then why are you looking at it like that? You don't think it holds that much?
Okay, look at my styrofoam cup over there. That's 32 ounces.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Don't you think it holds like almost that? I think you're over.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm a terrible.
I'll look
judge
it
of
back up.
measurement.
It's on Biscuit Import's website.
It's
So
fine.
we'll look it back up. So
You're gonna be right, and I'm gonna be a fool. So.
no, it's okay. So this comes from Biscuit Imports. You can see it has a lovely handle that will support all of the gravy that you need. And then it also comes with a little plate that it sits on. Again, I think the plate is like extra because don't you just use this and then it's empty and then like who puts it back in? You're just gonna pass around the table
Well,
and use it.
yes, but the plate will be nice so that when it does find a home on the table when everybody's used it, you know people are messy as hell. So
They
when
are.
it drips down, it's not gonna get on your table.
I guess that's true. Yeah. And then what are you painting with today, Karen?
I am painting with one of our classic signature colors, blue trash.
And I would love to say that this is proprietary, but you can make blue trash at any studio that carries Jungle Gems. Jungle Gems is Mako's line of low fire mobile specialty glazes, and we make blue trash by mixing together every blue that we have in shop, and sometimes some greens and sometimes some clears to make this just amalgamation of every beautiful blue that we own. I am painting another table setting for Thanksgiving. This is a hand-thrown cylinder that I punched a bunch of holes in, and we're going to use as a little tea light luminary lantern. Yeah. And I'm painting mine with leaf green. And then I'm going to add paint chips to it, which are seen as trash. Paint chips are like the dried up paint glazes that stick to the cups and things like that. And we actually go through so many paint chips that I have to make them, I have to manufacture them rather than just relying on what dries in the little cups. So that's what ties into our trash theme. I had a lot of choices for our project today, but I always default to the easiest thing for us to actually do while we're talking
because you would think when you're sitting here, like when people come into the shop and they're with their friends or family and they're having conversations, like even they get super quiet sometimes, especially if you have a couple of them that are concentrating really hard. And so sometimes it may not seem like it should be a big deal
That's what it's
to
really.
do something while we're talking. But yeah, especially when we're talking about something that, you know, we have to check our notes or I have to think critically. People come into the shop all the time and maybe they're bringing in kids or grandkids or whatever. And I'll talk to them about, you know, what are you going to paint? What do you have in mind? And they're like, oh, no, I'm a terrible artist. I can't do anything. And I'm like, let me introduce you to our specialties.
Yeah, if I can do it, you can do it.
Right. Doesn't matter what type of specialty you use, it's going to come out awesome.
Yeah. So I've got leaf green going down and then we'll do some speckles on here. But let's dive into our topic. So why are we talking about the mafia and trash? The mafia has long been involved in the yucky jobs no one wants. In the 20s and 30s, the mafia targeted unions in low-wage industries known for their semi-skilled labor force with fierce competition, thin profits, and decentralized union structures. The ones that they targeted the most in the 20s and 30s were things like trash collection, the garment district of New York, construction, and trucking, which we all know from a million movies about the Chicago trucking industry, and then restaurants because they are cash heavy businesses. And at the time, were really abusing their employees. So, right, the mob offered this really grandiose look to the people who would join the unions and said, oh, we'll take care of you, we'll argue for your contracts, we'll get you better wages, which they did do. So we can't say that there was nothing good out of this, but what good, small good benefits they gave to the people, they far made up in illicit trafficking and laundering their monies from other projects. Once they created the unions through force, bribery, and extortion, they used the power of the unionized workers to embezzle money, strong arm politicians, and threaten to carry out strikes to get what they wanted. Now, I say all of this in past tense as if it doesn't happen today.
Right.
But officially, the mafia has a very small interest in real businesses nowadays due to the FBI's crackdown and the politicization of mafia industries. And I say all that to give, I don't know, the propaganda some credit.
So my comment here would be, we've talked a little bit about art imitates life, imitates art, right? So these movies and shows and whatever else that you watch or listen to, they come from somewhere, right? So things may be embellished. Hollywood doesn't do that ever, but there's mob stuff, mob shows going on all the time, and they're not necessarily all historical.
Yeah.
So one of the shows my husband and I both love mob movies and stuff, and one of the shows we've been watching lately is Tulsa King, and it's completely current, and it's a mobster gets out of jail and he gets sent away from the family and goes out to Tulsa and by infiltrating the weed business because it's legal there. And so he basically builds his own family in the middle of Oklahoma.
The businesses that they got involved in were legal. Owning a trash hauling company in and of itself is legal, but how they dispose of the waste is the questionable bit, and how they treat their public funding is the other side of this beast. There are huge profits in public contracts. Mafias love swindling the public sector out of their money and then returning a piss poor product. Garbage disposal is a great money laundering opportunity, but I'm not really smart enough to explain it. I know that it involves falsely inflating your expenditures and undercutting your processes, but honestly, when you get into like offshore accounts and taking money from their drug businesses and putting it into their legitimate businesses, none of it really makes any sense. But I am here to say that pottery studio owners would love some of the family. Would not mind being. No, just kidding. Just kidding. It's all jokes.
The CIA is listening.
I know.
What are you doing?
I'm already on a list. Trust
We
me.
both have.
I know.
Come on. Especially all this shit we've been researching since the podcast.
And then it leads you down these rabbit holes. So like not only am I researching trash, then you're researching like how does money laundering work? Like yes.
And yeah, that's
my bad.
The only accurate explanation is it is a total rabbit hole.
The mob organizes the trash hauling business in a given city to prevent competition from driving down prices. They fix their prices, they rake their bids, and they allocate territories in such a way that customers can't choose who picks up their garbage. And don't we know that from experience? There used to only be one trash company in Indianapolis, Ray's. Now there are two, GHW and Waste Management. But Waste Management is fully mob involved and GHW is full of morons. So there's really no viable option outside of what's given. Then they harass non-mob trash hauling companies and skirt local laws. We're going to get into that when we talk about the Italian mob, but I want to give you an idea of what else the mafia does in order to increase profits and decrease their care for the public. In Taiwan, mobs dig gravel at riverbeds to sell to construction companies. Then they fill the holes with garbage. So they're doing a little double dip there. And then the mafia controls the construction sector through unions, forcing companies to work with them by pushing out the competition, undercutting them because they have illegal revenue streams to bolster their legitimate businesses, which is fascinating. Like that's where it becomes a double-edged sword where they're making a lot of money selling drugs, so then they can sell their construction business cheaper to undercut the other business, and they still make money, and then they can funnel that illegitimate business money into a legitimate business.
See, that's money laundering.
It is. I know. I guess you're right. I figured it out. The mob controlled New York's trash from the 1950s until Rudy Giuliani in the 90s seized control of the trash industry as the mayor. It all started when members worked their way into the Teamsters, which included garbage truck drivers, and allowed the mob to dictate which companies the drivers would work for, effectively pushing out the non-mafia operations. So it starts with truck driving. They get into it, and then they push out all the other garbage truck drivers, but they also did it with mechanics because the mafia organized the mechanics union as well. The 2008 trash crisis in Naples was directly related to the mafia. The people of Naples complained to the government to intercede when the Camorra mafia took over the city and held them hostage with trash in the middle of the summer. The Camorra Mafia dates back to the 18th century, and their exploits include drug trafficking, racketeering, counterfeiting, and money laundering, and of course, trash hauling. They also are in gambling and beauty salons and restaurants, and it's estimated that 1 out of every 5 businesses in Naples alone is owned by the mafia.
Because that's the thing, right? Once they get a foothold somewhere, they infiltrate
They exploit
everything.
Yeah. They started investing time in the garbage hauling industry in the 1980s, often disposing garbage in illegal and unsafe ways, like setting fire to large piles of mixed trash and dumping industrial waste straight into quarries and aqueducts. The Camorra operate in over a dozen countries, including the US and Canada. Illegal garbage is big business. In Italy during 2013 alone, the Camorra is speculated to have made $16.3 billion in trash removal only.
Okay. What the hell are people doing in Italy that they're making so much trash? Well, but I think that's another thing that you don't have a concept of it, like just as the regular person.
I think that's what it is. And it's also industrial waste. So we're not just talking about residential waste. A lot of it is industrial. And they're making the money by undercutting the other industrial waste haulers because they're using these unsafe tactics to dispose of the
Right.
waste. So where legitimate waste removal companies in Italy charge 21 to 62 cents per kilo, which is like 10 to, hold on, I'm doing math, 31 cents a pound, just about. The Camorra charge 9 to 10 cents per kilo. So you know they ain't doing it right. There's no way.
Well, and like that's the whole point, right? Like you're the mob because you want to make money and have control, but you need to do it fast. So you're going to cut corners. There's not going to be an easy quote unquote way to undercut and still do it right. And that takes time and more money. So they're not going to do that.
And it's part of their personality, right? If they could do it legitimately, they wouldn't, because why would they? Because they don't have to. And it also protects their assets. They don't have to blackmail, bully, or berate customers because they blackmailed, bullied, and berated politicians in order to close down other refineries and other incinerators.
I mean, that side of it, I don't know that I'm super mad about.
I know, right? The politicians are dumb enough to take the money and to take the bribe. They're signing their own death warrant. Their fires are causing public health crises. In Campania, the poorest region of Italy, where they dump most of their garbage, it has been named the land of fires. In this area, cancer rates are sky high, and younger people are presenting with cancers that are often untreatable. Doctors are absolutely beside themselves with what they are supposed to tell their young patients. In the US Navy, which has staff and families living in bases in the, I'm going to butcher this word, Griciano support site in Capodicino, undertook a $30 million study from 2008 to 2011 and found that servicemen and family members who lived at these sites for more than 3 years would be exposed to significant health risks. Let me tell you, if it takes the US Army spending $30 million of their money on something that's not weapons to figure a problem out, it's an actual problem. But the challenges come for the public in the mafia's extreme size. As we mentioned, in Italy, it's estimated that the mob owns 1 out of every 5 businesses in every sector and has almost a complete monopoly on trash and on gambling. I couldn't find a relative guesstimate for the American businesses, but restaurants and other cash-based services make up a large amount of mafia-controlled businesses in America. While the public estimate for mafia members is 3,000 in America, the clandestine nature of the operation and the fact that smaller clans operate independent of larger gang structures sway that pretty heavily. Also, just judging by the amount of men I've met in questionable industries in my entire life, it's got to be more than 3,000. Like, I know more than 3,000 people operating shitty businesses and restaurants, and I know more than 3,000 people breeding dogs in their backyard, because that's a really great way to launder cash as well. I mean, and then when you think about it, whether you call yourself the mafia or you call yourself something else, you're still doing mafia-like tactics.
It's organized crime.
Yes, there's organized.
Maybe we need to use that term instead.
I guess that's right. Yeah, that's a good point. And we can look at, let's say, the Mormon culture. A lot of their organized crime comes in MLMs and pyramid schemes. And then a lot of IBL peers are known to have, like I said, illegal dog breeding businesses and things like that. We can look right to the Duggars for that one.
Is it bad that I'm more angry about mistreated dogs than I am about all of the people that are getting for trash disposal?
I mean, I think you can have room for both.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not a garbage human. Pun intended.
I think also it's hard to conceptualize the pain that these people are feeling, and it's hard to not say, well, you did it to yourselves because you voted in these corrupt people. But honestly, the corruption goes so deep that the average layperson has no idea what's really going on.
And it goes back far enough, right? Like this was established. Yeah, there might be some things that are newer that are popping up. They're getting into newer industries because just like everything else, they have to change with the times. right?
Yeah, one of the most fascinating podcasts I recently listened to was Slave Scammers. And the new thing is to imprison a bunch of people in places like Myanmar that don't have laws and then force them to run online scams, like blackmailing men after they've sent videos of them performing sex acts, things like that.
So yeah, I mean,
Lift and shift, baby.
if you watch any crime drama ever, movie, maybe not as much, but like especially serial cop shows and mafia shows, almost every single one of them has at least one or two episodes about human trafficking. So I mean, it's not necessarily, yeah, that stuff's going on far away, but it's happening here too. Think about all of the different ways that people are trafficking Mexicans here. And that's more of they trap them into this never ending thing where, yeah, we'll help you get across the border. And then you're in debt to us forever.
Yeah, the newest scheme is popping up in ICE controlled cities like in North Carolina. They just sent out an alert this morning saying that scammers are popping up offering to help illegal residents go through the naturalization process. I thought that was when we were born here, and I was like, that's wrong. Anyways, through the citizenship process, but they're actually illegal representatives or people who are informants for ICE turning on them. So it just evolves with every society.
Exactly.
The scammers will scam. So how does this topic influence us today? We've gotten into that with a little bit of the talks about the current scams that we see run and then the current mafia business that we see run. It also set a playbook up for future scammers. So even if you never thought that your culture would scam, we see it pop up in
absolutely
every layer of culture. But it also influences regular lay people who are trying to do a good job and be good people because there's a monopoly on services. We can't choose who hauls our garbage in most cities.
Right.
So we're forced to use a mafia company, even though we'd rather not give our money to the mafia. That's not really a thing we want to be a part of. And it really reminded me of that part in The Good Place. Do you remember? Did you watch The Good Place?
I did.
Do you remember the part where they meet Doug Forsett, who has like a perfect score or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
And they're talking about how complicated life is because you can't, like, an analogy was you can't buy a rose for your mother just out of the kindness of your heart because that rose was produced by slave labor and it used bad pesticides,
Right.
all these other things.
It's an expanded version of the Friends episode where Phoebe tries to explain that there are things that you can do just out of the goodness of your heart. And then you get into this like cycle.
But if you're doing it,
But if you're doing it for the goodness of your heart,
it's not.
It's making you feel good by doing a good act, which is prideful or whatever. And it's crazy.
But it's really true. I mean, if I want to vote by my dollars and I don't want to spend my money with a mafia organization, how would I even know? And then how would I know that that organization is not being serviced by a mafia organization? It's just a mess. So we also get affected by price fixing and price gouging. The mafia controls the waste removal, which means they can charge whatever they want. And I can prove this because I have a 2-yard dumpster for the shop. To get it taken once a week is $99 a month, which has gone up from, I mean, it's gone up like 50%. I think I paid $52 a month back in 2020. Additionally, the last couple weeks I've been trying to like pare down expenses at the studio so I could maybe like make a paycheck or whatever.
I mean,
and trash was
kids don't need to eat.
My kids don't. They eat all the time. They don't need new shoes is really what the joke. So I looked at our trash services and I was like, we really could get picked up once every other week. So I scheduled that thinking I'm going to save bank. Like it should be $45 or like 50 because like, they want to make a little bit more. No, $75 to get picked up every 2 weeks. And then there's a $10 convenience fee nowadays for paying online. But if I don't pay online, I have to mail my check a month earlier, or else they ding me for late services. So I'm not really sure where that leaves me. They also can provide shitty service. They know you have no choice, so they can do whatever they want, changing pickup dates, rejecting trash, telling you your industrial sized dumpster is too heavy for the little Chucky, which I got one year because we'd accidentally left the top slightly open and it had some water in it. Now, I say some water, and I am making fun of them. However, I had to drill a hole in the side of my dumpster to get the water out, and it took 2 days for all the water to come out. So maybe it wasn't.
Which again, that's like poor design.
It is poor design. And it also, like, I see other people's dumpsters open all the time. So I don't think it was just me, but like I was the only one that they couldn't pick up my trash. Maybe it's because they don't wanted them.
It could be. I don't know. This isn't going to help your cause.
It's okay.
Like, I see you guys, but I can't do shit about
Can't
it.
do shit about it. Labor unions get a shitty rep, even though they have moved the country forward, but they get the shitty rep because they were started by the mob. Labor unions are responsible for changing child labor laws, to enacting OSHA and other safety regulations in the workplace for fair pay, and even for women's rights in the workplace. They have done some great things, but where they started and what they really want to do is kind of the mess. But that's the same in every cult, right? Every cult has some good and some bad, or else nobody would join the cult. So I'm going to talk about a present day mafia case that was on the FBI website. It's the case of James Galante in New Haven, Connecticut from 2003. James was proven to be part of the Genovese family of the mob, which is weird because I don't think about the mob in New Haven, Connecticut, but I guess wherever there are people, there's going to be a mob.
Right. And like you're from the East Coast. And so geographically,
Yeah,
you're
it's
like,
small. It's
oh my gosh, it's a whole other state. But really, anything in New England, it doesn't take long, comparatively speaking, to what we're used to in the Midwest.
Speaking of New England, and this is a total diversion from the topic, but last week I told someone I was from Baltimore, Maryland, and they said, "Oh, so you're a Patriots fan." And I was like, "Where do you think Baltimore is?" And then it reminded me that a lot of times people think I should have a Boston accent. Because they'll be like, "Why don't you have an accent?" And they'll do a Boston accent back at me. And I'm like,
Boston's in Massachusetts.
Boston's in Massachusetts. And New Haven, Connecticut is a Patriots country. But like Baltimore is definitely not in
They
New
have their
England.
own team.
We do have our own team. We're also very far south of anything New England. Like there's a whole state in between us and New England. Pennsylvania is giant.
Right.
It's just funny. But then I thought about it and I was like, do I really know Midwest geography? I don't. So who am I gonna I can't really make fun of anybody.
Sure you can.
Anywho, back to James Galante. So James Galante sent a threatening note to another trash company, which resulted in an FBI investigation. Now I have to say, congrats to the other trash company for sticking the FBI on them. But then you think like maybe they just did it because they didn't want to get the heat, whatever. So they uncover corruption throughout his entire organization, and he owns tons of other businesses. He ended up having to forfeit the right to all of his businesses, which total over $100 million.
Jesus.
Insane.
Business.
Yes, but additionally, in that case, a former mayor, a federal drug agent, and a Connecticut state trooper were all indicted and all given sentencing as part of that case for helping Galante. Not fucking surprising.
Right.
Right. They did things like infiltrate the National Crime Information Center and use the FBI database to get license plates for Galante so that he could target his victims. Bananas, right?
Well, and like, I don't, that's when I get really stuck in the rabbit holes because I know my husband is so sick of hearing me say stuff about who decided this was okay. And then I just start talking about things and he is a very good sport, but I know at least internally he has to be rolling his eyes and doing, here we go again. But it's not.
What did he marry you for if he didn't want to hear the rant for the rest of his life? Let's be honest. He knew what he was getting himself into.
My boobs.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't really have a coherent thought going there.
No, that was great. That was great. Do you want to talk about your fun facts?
Yes. Do you want to intro me or do you want me to?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, as for my part of the lesson today, it was rather short because honestly, the mob is so clandestine and the FBI files are so hard to hack that it's hard to get a really good picture. But I think I've given you a good overview. We can't do anything about it because we don't want to stop using trash trucks, but we can do innovative things. In Maryland, there's a company called Barb's Trucks. All of her trucks are bright pink. She's women owned and she's running her own type of mafia gambit because like women owned businesses get a lot of the government contracts, but it's one step at a time, right?
I mean, feminism is feminism, right? We got to bust through that glass ceiling, even when it's totally illegal.
No, well, it's not illegal to get government contracts.
Well, I know, but
questionable to do it based on the fact that you have a pink truck. Anyhoozle, we're going to lead right into Karen's fun fact since I just stole a fun fact from you that I'm sure is on your list because I'm sure you know the intricacies about Baltimore trash pickup.
I do not. So there will not be overlap there.
Yay.
But thank you for having the confidence in me to think that I dug that deep.
That deep.
Especially because you're from there. So my fun facts are kind of all over the place. I'm not going to necessarily talk about every single thing that I researched because, again, that would triple the length of this podcast. And we were kind of going for a shorter one this week. It's a holiday week.
We'll give you guys a break.
Yeah, and maybe also give ourselves a little bit of a break. So a lot of times you'll hear about the code of silence when you're talking about the mafia. So, like, yeah, they're the mob and they're operating and doing a whole bunch of illegal things, but there's still a code that they follow. So, I saw different things depending on the source, but essentially, the most common thing that I found was the 8 rules of the mafia. It's not a quote unquote official list because nothing is official because it's the mob. And my apologies, I use mafia and mob interchangeably. So
that's totally
if
fine.
there is technically a difference, guys,
Go ahead and out yourselves in the comments and tell us.
let me know.
Go ahead and put it right there for
Right.
the FBI because you know they're following us.
So essentially, absolute secrecy, loyalty, respect for hierarchy, along with specific prohibitions against certain actions. So don't be seen with cops unless you find a dirty cop. Don't be a rat. Goodfellas is considered one of the most like accurate representations in pop culture of the mob. And spoiler alert, the whole story is told from the perspective of a rat. So whatever. You cannot have 2 timing relatives in the family. So a person with close relatives in the police is not eligible for membership. I like how they phrase it that way. Like, oh, this is a country club, but you can't come in. Wives of friends must not be looked at in a weird or disrespectful way. So feeling a little 10 Commandments-y there.
Well, it's all ownership.
Right.
They
so
own
yeah,
their wife,
it's
so
it's a rule of respect. So don't mess around with your mob brothers' wives. Money cannot be taken if it belongs to others or other mafia gangs. So, which is kind of funny, right? So steal from whoever as long as they're not in the club.
part of the club, yeah.
I found this one to potentially be very inaccurate. People who cannot be part of the mafia would be people involved with narcotics, which, hello, narcos.
Well, they do talk about like not tipping into your own supply.
Yeah. Okay, so more from that perspective
Yes.
of like, oh yeah, we can totally sell drugs, but you can't be a drug addict.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense. I feel like that wasn't implied in what I read, but I also literally read like a sentence about it. So, superiors must absolutely be respected, a nadoy, and you must be silent if you are called, leaving whatever you are doing, and you must rush to the call no matter what. So Louise talked a little bit about the Italian mafia. I'm going to kind of keep it close to home, talk about a little bit of the history of the American mafia. So the American mafia refers to itself internally as Cosa Nostra, which means our thing. All right. So I feel like we're getting into some of that French stuff that we talked about before, where you're like, oh, it sounds so much better in their language. And then you're like, so Italian for that is it's our thing.
Yeah.
And then that makes me want to bust out into it's my prerogative.
Oh my.
Why don't you let me live? At the time of this recording, it is not even noon, and Louise is rolling her eyes. It's gonna be a long day at the shop, guys. I'm also going to talk about the 5 families. So this was a strictly around New York's organized crime, historically run by 5 major families: the Gambino, Lucchese, Genovese, Bonanno.
It's okay, just butcher them. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're totally
Everyone's going to tell us what
and
the right
Colombo.
answer is.
So, and then very stereotypical, but most likely accurate, that new members are typically required to go through a formal initiation ceremony, which involves swearing an oath of loyalty, often by burning a picture of a Catholic saint. So you talked a little bit about, organized crime with the Mormons, and, we can't leave the Catholics out at all. Who are some of the most popular mobsters that you've probably heard of? Do you have a favorite?
I don't. I try to avoid mafia propaganda at all costs. And a lot of times the movies are really like I want to say gory is not the right word, but like very bloody. And that's not like there's enough of that in life. I try not to watch that in my media.
That's true. So I definitely lean towards reading and listening to the smut because it totally takes me out of, for the most part, whatever tomfoolery is going on in the world. So I definitely understand that, but still true crime junkie, always have been, and definitely down the mob lines. I don't know. It just fascinates me. So I found a list of top 10 mobsters. Most of these I have heard of. So number one, probably not surprising, Al Capone. He earned nicknames that perhaps you've heard of, like Scarface, Big Al, Big Boy, and Snorky. I really need to research a little bit more about how that came about. But anyway, what's one of our new catchphrases? Guys, we're talking about merch, which is super exciting. And I think one of the catchphrases we're going to use is something along the lines of, but we don't have time for that.
Yes, there's something I'm holding back from interjecting that we don't have time for that's going to blow everybody's mind, and we'll probably make a new podcast out of.
I can't wait to hear it.
I know.
Because, guys, I have no idea. We are not prepared for this.
We're not.
Okay, so anyway, born in New York in 1899, Five Points gang member as a teenager before moving to Chicago to start a bootlegging business as co-founder of the Chicago outfit, which later expanded to include smuggling and sex work. So this is definitely during the time of Prohibition. So you hear all kinds of tall tales, I guess, might be a good legends about that time frame. Like that's how NASCAR got started, was running moonshine and all this stuff. But guys, that stuff comes from somewhere. It's real life.
Well, and I can tell a real life story about my mom swears it's not a mafia connection. It's just part of our family lore. It is true that my grandfather made bathtub gin and that my grandmother would go around at night, pick up everyone's milk bottles, fill it with gin. The house mothers would empty the gin into their home bottle and put their milk jars back out for the milkman to pick up and replace the next day.
So here's where I also, like, as much as I love getting into these stories and stuff, at the end of the movie or whatever, and I'm always like, man, if you put that much energy into something legitimate, like you wouldn't be in prison now. But again, it's called a hustle for a reason. So they bust their ass for a short amount of time, they make a shit ton of money, and then they just have to keep doing that. Like, it's not a one-time thing.
Yeah, so we're a generation away from that. My grandmother was the one doing it. She was like 6 and running the milk jugs, right? And so her father made money. There is none of that money left. We are not rich. There is no hidden trove. I mean, I don't think
well, it's all relative, right? So, I mean, if
I know, well, and it built generational wealth. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. The house that they owned in New York just sold for like 600,000 or something stupid when it was just like a little shack or whatever. The crime doesn't pay unless you keep doing the crime.
That is true. So I won't get into every single gangster this in depth, but Al Capone is one of the world's best known gangsters. So I felt like I needed to spend just a couple of minutes on him. So along with his methods of extreme violence, he often bribed police, judges, and even the mayor of Chicago. It was after he publicly murdered 7 rival gang members, however, during the infamous St. Valentine's Day massacre, that he was declared public enemy number 1 by the city of Chicago. If you know much, or even if you don't know much about Al Capone specifically, you hear references in pop culture all the time that he was brought down by tax evasion.
The IRS gets their guy every time.
They did, but he was released at some point. So he died of a heart attack in 1947, leaving behind, any ideas how big his fortune was?
No idea. I'm so excited to hear this. Wait, 1949?
1947.
1947. Okay, go ahead.
$3 billion.
Oh my good glory day.
One dude.
I'm going to go right to the inflation calculator. I love the inflation calculator, guys. It's one of my absolute obsessions. I was looking up what my husband makes now because he got a huge promotion.
Yeah, congrats. This is the one I already knew about.
Yes, yeah, this is only for the beginning of the year, but it was interesting to look at how much that money was when we were kids because it sounded like a lot of money to me when he made it, and then we're just like still just paying bills.
Clay and I talk about that all the time.
Okay, 1947. I don't even know that I can put 3 billion into the calculator here. 30. Oh my God, how many zeros is that?
9. It's 43 billion.
43 billion.
Yeah.
That's
cumulative rate of inflation, 1,356.5%.
Yeah, that's insane.
As millennials, we feel that deep in our hearts.
Yeah, where did the money go? That's the question the IRS doesn't want you to ask. They took all the money and it went where?
You can't see me, but I'm making the same face as the gif of the little girl going, Okay. So I'm sorry, I did not go that deep of a dive.
You're fine. There's not an answer.
Interestingly, number 2 on this list, there's not like one specific answer. And he had shit hidden, so that had to be an estimated number. It was probably like 10.
Gross.
I know. It's crazy. Number 2 on this list, which I actually have not heard of, Albert Anastasia. He was nicknamed the Earthquake, the One-Man Army, Mad Hatter, and Lord High Executioner.
Indeed.
It's really hard for me now to hear anybody described with the title Lord and not think of Lord Farquhar from Shrek. So in my head, Albert's like 5'1" and strutting around with his little Napoleon syndrome. And again, I don't even know because I've never heard of him.
No, I think if his name is the Earthquake, he's a fatty.
That's true.
That's how also.
And this is one of those things like, is it in your face where they have a tiny guy and they call
him the Earthquake? That's a good one.
Like a gigantic guy and they call him Shorty or Tiny.
Yeah, we'll have to look that one.
Yeah. So anyway,
that's a good point.
So he's one of the founders of the modern American Mafia, born in Italy, began his career as a longshoreman in the US, allied himself with the Mafia, and then co-founded and later became the boss of the Murder Inc. organization.
Yeah, longshoremen and shipping. We didn't even get into that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the easiest way to import shit illegally.
Like import-export business.
Right. He was eventually murdered in a barbershop, likely by members of the Genovese and Gambino families. Number 3, Lucky Luciano.
Luciano.
Yeah,
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Is meh. Known for being the first gangster to legitimize mafia power in America. Charles Lucky Luciano started his life of crime in the 5 Points Gang before becoming a top assistant in Masseria's criminal organization after the Castellamares more.
Sure.
Lord.
Sure.
Jesus.
I'll take it.
Okay, thanks.
We're not on Jeopardy. Okay.
So Lucky's luck ran out when he was convicted for sex work racketeering. However, his 30 to 50 year sentence was shortened after he cooperated with the U.S. Navy during World War II, then commuted on the condition that he be deported to Italy and later died of a heart attack in Naples,
where all the mafiosos live and die.
Number 4, Frank Costello, born in Italy, raised in East Harlem, began his criminal career at 13 in an alliance with Lucky Luciano in bootlegging, gambling, and building operations that gained him influence when Lucky went to prison. He survived an assassination attempt which killed Albert Anastasia, escaped many legal cases brought against him, and eventually died of a heart attack, age 82, leaving 52 million behind. It is said he was the inspiration for Mario Puzo's book and later Francis Ford Coppola's film The Godfather. Number 5, Carlo Gambino, earning nicknames such as The Godfather, Don Carlo, King of the United States Underworld, the Dictator of New York City, and the King of the American Mafia. He was the head of the Mangano crime family, which he renamed the Gambino criminal family. I mean, he named it after himself. So.
Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. All right.
Wait 20 minutes.
Again, somebody else that died of a heart attack at age 74. So when you get to the head of the family, apparently you're going to die of a heart attack in your 70s or 80s.
So you still get to live that long.
Right. Paul Castellano, 1915 to 1985. Had a 17-room mansion on Staten Island to resemble the White House.
Wait, pre or post East Wing?
Well, he died the year I was born, so...
There could have been an East Wing at that point.
Yeah. Number 7, Pablo Escobar. Definitely well-known, at least in name. He is described as a Colombian narco-terrorist and drug trafficker, estimated to have murdered some 4,000 people, known as the King of Cocaine, the King of Crack, El Padrino, and El Patron. He founded the Medellin cartel, which at its peak supplied the U.S. with 70 to 80 tons of cocaine per day.
which was all funneled into Black neighborhoods so that there could be a war on drugs so that we could further penalize Black people for just breathing.
Right. Pablo was imprisoned in 1992, escaped, had a nationwide manhunt, eventually leading him to being shot and killed the day after his 44th birthday. So what does this tell you? When you get into the drugs, life expectancy decreases almost by half. One of the other super popular names, John Gotti. He was known as the Dapper Don because he was frequently pictured in expensive suits. He was a criminal from the age of 12, murdered his boss, Paul Castellano, which led him to becoming boss of the Gambino crime family. During the 80s, he earned millions through loan sharking, sex work, illegal gambling, and narcotics distribution, eventually imprisoned also in 1992, but continued his crime business from behind bars and died of cancer in 2002. And then we do have a lady that made the top 10.
Heck yeah.
Do you remember who this is?
No, let's do it.
Griselda Blanco.
So, yeah.
Once you hear her name, you're like, oh yeah, that one. I did the same thing. Had her peak in the 70s and 80s, became the first ever billionaire criminal, earning $80 million a month from the proceeds of smuggling cocaine from Colombia to the US. She was nicknamed La Madrina, the Black Widow, the cocaine godmother, and the queen of narco trafficking. She ordered the deaths of some 2,000 people, was shot dead at age 69 outside a butcher's by a man on a motorbike. I don't know why that's a specific detail that they put in here, but okay.
Because Italians love their Vespas.
I guess. But she's not Italian.
I'm just saying, but we love our Vespa, so it was Italian.
Oh, it was an important detail.
Well,
I got you.
Yeah.
And then number 10, Frank Lucas, powerful drug kingpin in Harlem in the 60s and 70s, broke the Italian-American mob boss drug ring monopoly. I mean, good for him.
Breaking glass ceilings all over the place.
Right? Sold and cut heroin. He sold heroin and cut out the middleman by buying directly from his suppliers in Southeast Asia. He was earning $1 million a day in the 70s during his prime from his blue magic heroin, and boasted of bribing army members into smuggling the drugs via U.S. military craft. Police raided his New Jersey home in 1975. He got a 70-year prison sentence. However, after just 5 years,
died of a heart attack.
He was
shot in the head.
He was freed due to his cooperation in implicating others. So he broke one of the main rules. He was a rat.
How did he not get shot by his other compadres if he was a rat?
He later expressed remorse over the damage that his life of crime did to the community and died of natural causes in 2019.
That is bullshit.
I have two honorable mentions. Meyer Lansky, he was a key financial mastermind behind many organized crime syndicates and an associate of Lucky. And then Bugsy Siegel, just because, one, I've heard of him, and two, I mean, the name Bugs is amazing. He was a mobster who played a significant role in the development of the Las Vegas Strip. We didn't even get to Vegas.
No.
And he was a key figure in the national crime syndicate.
We don't have time for Vegas. Vegas could be its own
podcast. I wanted to give you a very quick rundown of my favorite mob movies, just because why not? So this one, Boondock Saints, not necessarily right off the top of your head a mob movie, but it's about some vigilantes who target the mob. So you kind of see the opposite side. So still illegal crime, but they're doing it by cleaning up their adjacent because yes. And it's, if you haven't seen it, where have you been for the last 25 years? Oh,
I know. I have such a long list of movies to watch because you're a movophile and I'm not a filmophile. Cinephile. Cinephile's the word.
So if you haven't seen it, you need to. And even the second one is pretty good. It's a little, I mean, obviously 99% of the time the sequels are not as good as the originals, but there's some actually really funny parts in the second one. And then Goodfellas, obviously, again, I mentioned it as one of the most, described as one of the most accurate depictions of the mob. Plus, it's one of the few movies where there's a woman named Karen, and those always stick out in my head. I know, right? And fun fact, Lorraine Bracco, who played Ray Liotta's wife in the movie, was later in Rizzoli and Isles, which is one of my favorite cop shows. She is Rizzoli's mom.
Do you love Ray Liotta too?
I do love Ray Liotta.
I do.
Yeah. And A History of Violence. This is another one that you might not necessarily think of as a mob movie right off the top of your head, but it's basically a gangster that tried to reinvent himself, had a family, moved to a small town. Everyone in his community knows him as a great guy, but then something happens and he goes into self-defense mode, and everybody's like, whoa, where the fuck did that come from? And then, of course, because he was defending somebody in his small town, he ends up on the news, which means
the mafia finds him.
Right. Ugh. So he's got to take care of that. The Departed, great movie. A little long, but it's about the Boston-based war between the police and an Irish mob. And then Gangster Squad, which is not as well known of a movie. It's from 2013 about an elite LAPD unit formed in 1949 to take down the powerful and corrupt mob boss Mickey Cohen. I'm not going to get deep into mob shows because, gosh, I could just talk about this forever. Yeah. But obviously, we talked about The Sopranos, Boardwalk Empire, Peaky Blinders. I talked about Tulsa King, Narcos, Ozark, and even Sons of Anarchy is an organized crime show. So, again, not necessarily mob direct, but it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So,
and Breaking Bad, and
oh yeah, I mean,
there's so many.
Yeah, you can't even. I could do a podcast on all that, but I don't think you guys care enough to just hear my opinions about shows that I like.
We might.
And then last is a movie, very little known, but one that Louise recommended to me just to kind of understand some of this stuff. Now, I do want to preface this by saying some of the research I did after I watched the movie does say that a lot of the depiction is inaccurate. However, I will say maybe the specifics, but it definitely
vibe.
Right. Yeah. But it helps you understand a little bit, and especially with the whole kind of money laundering part and how they can infiltrate pretty much any organization whatsoever. So Buffaloed is a 2019 film starring Zoe Deutsch. She lives in Buffalo, New York, and is obsessed with making money to escape her blue-collar life. She goes to prison for a stint selling counterfeit Bills tickets. The Buffalo Bills are a very big part of this movie. So, which also speaks to me, not because I'm a Bills fan, but just anything related to football. Yeah. And she becomes a debt collector, first working for a ruthless boss, but soon starts her own agency, which leads to a feud. And it's basically about them. It's another kind of glass ceiling thing because she's really successful and she outshines all the men when she starts working for the main boss. And then they try to shortcut her or undercut her and be like, well, we told you that you were going to make this percentage, but you're still new. Yeah, you're good for a beginner, but you've got a long way to go. So I'm only going to pay you this much. And she's like, fuck that. I'm going to start this on my own. So she goes out, gets a bunch of her friends together. They start their own debt collection business. It was small time Wolf of Wall Street vibes. That's exactly what it reminded me of.
Yes.
The whole same, starting out with the penny stocks and then getting successful and then getting bigger. And then you get into even more illegal stuff and it becomes massive and then blows up in your face. But overall, the time frame of all of this happening is not that long.
Yeah.
You go
3 years
and you crash hard.
Please.
So it just reinforces that these hustles are born out of necessity. So you've got these people you hear or see in a lot of the mob movies about when they're young and they're poor and they're just trying to, make a better life. Not always that sunny of a picture, but it starts young. They pull them in young, just like gangs. I mean, organized crime is organized crime, whatever you want to call it. Gangs, mafia, the mob, whatever. And once they get out of it being the necessity and they start rolling with everything, they have gotten successful. And then essentially, just like most things, it becomes their downfall at some point. But obviously not so big of a downfall that we don't still have all of these issues.
Yeah, and you can look at it from a historical perspective too and say that, okay, Italians and Irish were treated as lesser than and not hired as much when they came to Ellis Island in the early 1900s. And so they started their own gangs and to try and profit and keep their families afloat.
Which to me also ties into the fact that even all of the, legal law abiding immigrants that are here, they get the shitty jobs, literally and figuratively. And so that's why a lot of these things are infiltrated in areas where people are like, oh, we all need trash management, but nobody really wants to look that deep because it's not like we're going to step in and be like, oh, you're doing it wrong. I'm going to do it now. But then we'll still bitch about them taking our jobs, but whatever. And so another big theme that really resonated with me, mainly because I was, as I've mentioned before, a criminology major and sociology major, is that prison time does not decrease recidivism at all. What it does is sets people back and then teaches you how to be a better criminal.
Yeah.
Because you learn about everyone else's crimes and you learn from their mistakes, and then you go out and you do it bigger and better.
That's such a good way to put it.
And then I just have to tell you this joke that was in there. And this is the last thing I'm going to say. So when Zoe Deutsch goes to start, she basically pitches herself to the initial guy that she goes to work for and learns all about debt collection from him. And the guy's walking her through their little, backroom warehouse where everybody's on the phone and says, what's the difference between a hooker and a debt collector? A hooker takes your money before screwing you. So I'm going to end on that note.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a great place to end. The thing that I've been biting my tongue about is that the police were really born out of a mafia gang. The Irish mafia were the ones who proposed that they be hired as protectors and things like that. And it became a racist thing. And so whenever we talk about police and mafia operating side by side and things, dirty cops, like anybody who knows me knows that I think that they're all dirty cops. So it's an interesting look historically at the police, and we'll make that a podcast episode at some point. But Karen, what is up next week? What should we focus on next week? We have suffrage. Sounds like a bad thing, but it really wasn't on our list. We have Catherine the Great and her voluminous skirts on our list. We have mass transit, which has to wait. Oh, hemp and why it's really banned in America. Ooh. Do you want to do that one?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So next week, we'll be back with another episode about hemp and why it's really banned in America, and it has nothing to do with smoking doobies. But today, we're going to round out and talk about our projects. Karen's putting her 15th and final coat on. You should. It's beautiful. It's really impressive.
Listen, y'all, I have a historical issue with not getting enough even coats of paint on my pieces, and then I get super pissed when they come out of the kiln and I'm like, God, I can see my brush strokes. So I'm going all out, and she's probably right. I think this might be the 4th or 5th coat, but my God, if we're going to put this up for a fundraiser, then it's going to look amazing.
Yes. And then here's mine. It is 3 to 4 coats of leaf green. I did go a little heavy-handed as well. And then I put paint chip colors of orange, yellow, and white in a gradient on here. Ooh. And I'm hoping that they'll melt down a little. This glaze can go to cone 6, so I may fire it at cone 6 just to get these to melt more.
Sure.
And see the movement, but then that'll take the leaf green closer into black. But that's so cool.
I think it'll make it pop with the lighter color.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So we'll see how these look next week, and then these project guides will be up. They're going to be real short project guides because this one's going to tell you to mix paint and put it on your stuff, and this one's going to tell you to paint it and put paint chips on there, but we'll put them up nonetheless with the pictures. Last week's was Anne Boleyn's necklaces, which actually are in the kiln today, cooled down from their bisque firing. So we have yet to paint those, but we will put out videos of us painting them and then their finished product.
And I'm almost done getting our actual fundraiser up, ready to go. So I will have our first 4 projects up that will be available for bidding. We are probably going to make these, at least to start, a fairly short auction, because we've been talking about this for weeks.
Yeah, we want to get some money
to fuel for school. So that has been an interesting challenge for me to figure out, because I'm not setting it up as a nonprofit, but we're donating to a nonprofit. So
we wanted to do this really ethically. So we could have just put the money back and just said that we were going to donate the money. Right. We want to make sure that you guys have some transparency on what's earned and where it goes.
And so the site that we're using, which when it's fully up, I will share it on all the socials. But they handle all of the actual transactions for us And it's actually a free site, which is nice because they do support nonprofits. So people have the opportunity when they are cashing out for an item to essentially tip or pay for servicing fees to
So the nonprofit doesn't
companies.
use anything.
But
Yeah.
yes, and it is free for nonprofits to use. So I will plug them again on our socials, so that anyone who might be doing something similar can use them. Or maybe you're affiliated with a nonprofit and you've been dying to hear someone talk about how they do their online auction with ease. So, anyway.
We will also be launching our merch shortly here on Dashery, just because it's the easiest way for us not to have merchandise in-house that doesn't sell. We will have t-shirts, pins, hats, and anything else, and stickers.
Absolutely. Don't think she wasn't going to get away with that.
Stickers are our obsession here. If you want more of us, you can find us at kilncreations.net. You can find us also at Throwing Shade and Clay on Instagram.
And YouTube. And yes.
All of the things. So we'd love to have you follow us. I can't wait till next week, Karen.
Me either.
All right, have a great weekend.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you too.